Every ultimate experience Ireland has to offer is always within reach with a 182 BMW. The ultimate bowl of chowder, seasoned with Atlantic salt air, the ultimate swim spot, even the ultimate scenic shortcut that happily takes way, way longer. Experience the ultimate with a 24-hour test drive from your local BMW retailer, because owning your new BMW is always within reach. Visit bmw182.ie.
Welcome to the Empowerment Hour, a podcast dedicated to the woman ready to take charge of her life, live in her purpose, and be unapologetically authentic. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, award-winning author, mommypreneur, and the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah who is dedicated to helping women unleash their power, discover their purpose, and live up to their fullest potential. My goal is to empower you, inspire you, and help you unlock your passions and discover your purpose so that you live the most fulfilled and impassioned life. If you're ready to make a change and start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, aka the Latina Oprah. So this week has been really exciting for me. If you guys are following me on social, then you know this week Latina magazine and latina.com did an interview or interviewed me, and they printed the article this week. So I've been posting it because I'm excited about that. I actually had the opportunity to sit with Tiaya Smart Young back in January, and she interviewed me for the magazine, and I was really, really excited. And it took them a while to kind of run the story. Not sure why. I know that Latina magazine has been going through some changes recently. They're no longer doing actual print magazines. They're doing digital copies of that now. So you can kind of get all of your Latina magazine editions from, I think they started in December. So from December moving forward, everything's available online. And if you want to read my interview, you can kind of head over to latina.com and I guess Google or search the Latina Oprah, because that was what the title of the article was. And I found it rather interesting because I think for the past couple of months, I've been struggling with that moniker. And it's something that I've spoken about either on social or in my stories. And the fact that I call myself the Latina Oprah bothers people. And if you want to hear my takes on that, I think I spoke about it the last episode. So head on over to episode 70 and check that out. But even more than that, I myself had been contemplating just letting go of that title, because I never wanted to confuse people or my followers into believing that I want to become the next Oprah, right? Because that is not what that is about at all. Like, I don't want to be the next anyone. I want to be the first Nancy, right? So that when people talk about Nancy Ruffin, they don't even have to use my last name, where you just say Nancy and you already know that they're talking about me, right? And so for me, I'm really big on visualization. I host my vision board workshops 2, 3, 4 times a year. And so for me, it's really important to put out into the world in a real tangible way what I want to manifest into my life. And, for me, the person that represents the level of success I want to reach is Oprah. And not saying that I want to stop when I reach Oprah status. Obviously, I want to exceed everything that she has done. But right now, for me, she's the blueprint, right? And so when you think about where you want your life to be and the kinds of success that you want to have, you should have a model or guidelines that you're following, right? And one of the things that I talk a lot about is making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are about their business and with people who are where you want to be, right? Because they're the ones who are going to be in a position to guide you. And not saying that you're going to follow their exact steps, because they can give you the recipe, right? They can tell you exactly what they did step by step. But that does not mean that you're going to achieve the same level of success. However, if you have a general idea of what you have to do, and then you come in and you add your own special sauce to that, then you can achieve success on your own terms, in your own way, and something that is kind of unique and synonymous to you. And so when I call myself the Latina Oprah, that is what I'm doing. But back to what I was saying, up until a couple of months ago, I was thinking of just kind of ditching that because I don't want people to get confused. So when the article came out and that was the title, Meet Nancy Ruffin, the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah, I don't know, it was kind of like a sign that said, you know what, maybe it's not time for you to drop it yet, because people are starting to associate that with me. So whenever you hear the Latina Oprah, you're going to automatically think of Nancy Ruffin. And I know that for a time, for my Latino listeners, we had Cristina, right? She was a talk show host on Canal, I want to say Univision. It was channel 41 on regular TV. And for a while, she was the closest thing that we had to Oprah. But then I'm not sure what happened to her, right? And so she's kind of gone with the wind. And we haven't seen anyone, and not that I'm aware of anyway, that is even close to Oprah or what she has done, even in the talk show space. And probably no one will ever reach that level of success when you talk about talk shows, because what she did was, she really broke new ground with the type of shows that she did and how the Oprah Winfrey Show evolved from when she first started to when she ended it, some years ago. And, tonight what I really wanted to talk about is our choices and the series of events that happen in our lives that lead us to where we're supposed to be, right? And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about that, and specifically choices, because I think that oftentimes we forget how important the choices we make are into really creating our future, right? So the things that you decide right at this moment are putting certain things in motion in your life for things that are going to manifest for you 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, even 5 years from now. And the thing with that is that we tend to not think about our future with respect to the small individual steps and choices and decisions that we make today, and how those decisions influence the path that we take. Not only that, also recognizing when we might not make the best choice for our lives, that also is influencing certain outcomes, right? Because then you have to kind of also ask yourself, when you find yourself in an unfavorable situation as a result of certain choices that you have made in your life, how are you owning up to that choice? How are you taking accountability for the choices that have led you to where you are today? And I talk a lot about self-awareness, particularly when I'm doing my workshops or when I'm working one-on-one in my coaching sessions, because a lot of who we are and who we become is greatly affected by how well we know ourselves and how well we are able to be accountable for our lives and take responsibility for the things that we do, the things that we say, and the actions that we take. And so this is something that I really want you all to think about, because when I think about my own life, and I think about what I want my future to be, I'm really clear on what that is. And so I'm really cognizant right now on the things that I say yes and no to, and the certain choices that I make with regards to the opportunities that present themselves to me, and the opportunities that I decide to take, and the ones that I say, well, this might not be the best opportunity for me right now. And sometimes those opportunities that we say no to, had we said yes, would result in a different outcome for our lives, right? But the thing with that is, unless you are really clear on where you see yourself and what you want your future to look like, you won't be able to discern between the opportunities you should take and the ones that you shouldn't take, because not every opportunity that comes to you is going to be aligned where you ultimately want to be. And if it's not, there's no reason for you to say no to it, because then you're just wasting time. And there's nothing worse than wasting time, because time is the only resource that you can never get back, ever. Once it's gone, and then that's it, right? Money, if we spend money, we can always earn more money. And that's true for almost everything else except for time. And so this is why I'm really so aware on what I invest my time in, because I understand that if I'm investing time in one activity, that is taking away from something else that I could be investing time in. And so when we think about choices, when we think about taking responsibility for those choices and being accountable for those things that we may not be proud of, being able to recognize that and own up to our stuff is really important to our growth and to really getting to where we say that we want to be. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are not very self-aware, and they play the victim role a lot. And that's what happens when you're not aware of who you are. You tend to put the blame on everybody else for your circumstances, not realizing that, all right, there are times where we might end up in certain situations by no fault of our own, right? And the example I will give is, I don't know, maybe an abandoned child, right? So you have a kid who by no fault of their own gets neglected by their parent, gets abandoned. Maybe, the parent doesn't take care of the child, and they might end up, with family members in a foster home, whatever. And at that point, the child really had no control over that situation. However, what happens to that child's life from that point on is a direct result of how they choose to see themselves and their lives moving forward, right? So you have the child who will take that experience and internalize it so much to the point that they will always see themselves as a victim of their circumstance. So they will always see things happening to them and as if they have no control, and they will sit in that, and that will dictate the rest of their lives, right? And that will affect every relationship that they come in contact with. It will affect their self-concept, their self-esteem, the kind of employees they are, whether they're ambitious or not. All of that has a direct result on who that child becomes. But then you can have that same child who decides that they're not going to allow what someone else has done to them dictate their future, right? And so then that child decides to take their life in their own hands and makes conscious decisions and choices to make sure that they are never put in a situation to be made a victim again. So they take control of their lives and they become go-getters and they're ambitious and they refuse to see themselves as a victim, right? And so then the future that they're creating for themselves is going to reflect that type of thought process, right? And how they see themselves and how they view themselves. They refuse to see themselves as a victim. Therefore, they're going to show up in the world powerful, right? Because they're never going to allow themselves to be victimized again. And so I give that example because I know plenty of people who blame their current circumstances on everyone else but themselves. And until they are able to own their shit, they are always going to be victims in their own lives. And so for tonight, I want you guys to think about yourselves and how you show up in the world and how you respond to the decisions and the choices that you make. Because the truth is, none of us are perfect, right? And so at some point, we all have made bad choices, bad decisions. But what matters is what you do after you've made that bad choice. And how do you own up to that? And how do you make sure that you don't continue to make the same bad choice once you recognize that that choice was not in your best interest? Because the only way you're going to change your future is by not making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And so how well you're able to recognize those behaviors within yourself are going to dictate what your future is like. And so that is really what I want you all to think about tonight. And tonight, this episode is going to be short and sweet because this is something that I think doesn't require a lot of dialogue because it's pretty cut and dry and it's really easy to understand the concept. You're responsible for the choices that you make, and your ability to accept responsibility for them is what's going to dictate what your future looks like. So I want you to think about that. For me, I am really clear on what my future looks like. I know exactly what I want, and I know exactly what I have to do to manifest that. And that includes the kind of people I allow into my life and the kind of energy I allow myself to be a part of. And sometimes that means that I can't put myself in certain environments because of the energy that's going to be in that space. And protecting your space is really real, guys, because life is made out of energy. Everything that we're around, us ourselves, we are energy. And so if you place yourself in spaces where the energy and the aura is off, you attract that. And the last thing that you want is to allow any of that to come into your space and infiltrate you, because it can really have a negative effect on everything that you're trying to do. It affects how you feel. It affects the way that you think. And so you have to be very protective of yourself and of where you allow yourself to be and who you allow to be around you, because vibes do not lie. And sometimes that means you have to make difficult choices, and for me, that was particularly true this past weekend because I had to decline an invitation to an event that was really important to me only because of the person that it's celebrating, but I could not attend because of the space, because of the environment and certain individuals that were going to be in attendance. And so you have to be able to put yourself before any and everyone. And so while it did upset me that I couldn't be there to celebrate someone who means the world to me, I had to protect my own space and my own energy, because I'm at a place in my life, I'm a work in progress, right? And so I don't want to sit up here and as if I'm on a pedestal and pretend to be perfect, because I'm not. I am as flawed as the next person, but I work on myself every single day. And part of the work that I do is, asking God to help me be more God-like, to help me be more forgiving, to help me to kind of see people in the way that God sees people. And that's hard. It's hard. One, because I'm human, and so I'm not God. And so it's not as easy for me to forgive people who have hurt me or to kind of let stuff go. I'm working on that and I'm aware of those things, but I'm not there yet. Like, I'm not Saint Teresa, but I understand this. And so that's why I also understand that if I'm in certain environments with people who may have negative energy that may affect me negatively, it will affect me. It will make me react in a way that I am trying to change about myself. And again, this is me knowing who I am and knowing how certain things get certain reactions out of me. And so I'm just being conscious of that and not allowing myself to be in a space where someone could affect me to the point that all of the work that I've done on myself would be in vain, right? And so it's a process. And so I'm being patient with myself. And I say the same thing to you all. No matter where you are on your journey, be patient with yourself and forgive yourself, for not being perfect, because no one is. The only thing you can do is strive every single day to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And so with that, mi gente, I will let you go. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Empowerment Hour podcast. Your support is so appreciated. I hope this week is super productive for you. Make sure you set out what you want to accomplish this week and then go out there and crush